It was a great year for Miami until it wasn't. With Cam Ward in an offense averaging nearly 44 points per game and over 530 yards per game, it looked like the Hurricanes were going to be a lock for the college football playoff. They jumped out to a 9-0 start, beating most of those teams in dominating fashion, but then they got upset on the road at Georgia Tech, and they blew a 21-point lead on the road against Syracuse in the season finale. They went 10-2, but that wasn't good enough to get them to the ACC championship game, and it wasn't good enough to get them into the college football playoff. So what started off as a great year, a historic year statistically, ended in disappointment. They ultimately lost their bowl game to Iowa State by 1 point to finish 10-3. Now entering 2025, the Hurricanes have their eyes set on the playoff once again, but the million-dollar question is, can they get there? Before we jump into the roster this year and what they're going up against, I do want to touch on last year just a little bit. Again, we mentioned 10-3. Those 3 losses coming by a combined 10 points. 10 points. 5 to Georgia Tech, 4 to Syracuse, 42-38, and then 1 point to Iowa State. But the interesting thing about Miami, I know a lot of people were upset they didn't get in. 10-2, only 2 losses. Why didn't we get in? A major reason for that was their schedule. It was weak. The Hurricanes did not beat, nor did they play, a single ranked team in 2024. You go back and look at that regular season schedule, they didn't play any ranked opponents. They didn't beat a single ranked opponent. The only ranked team they played was Iowa State in the bowl game. By that point, it was null and void. So the strength of schedule really wasn't there. Then you look at some of the games they struggled against. They beat Virginia Tech and California, some would say in controversial fashion, only winning those 2 games by combined 5 points, and then beat Louisville by 1 possession. So an interesting season for Miami, but again, 10-2 for most teams, good enough to get in. They just didn't have that strength of schedule. This year will be a lot tougher, and we'll get to that in a second. Mario Cristobal is entering a big year, though. 22-16 overall with the Hurricanes. He needs to have another big year. Even if it's not the playoff, he needs to probably win 9 or 10 games. 9 one-possession losses under Cristobal during his tenure with the Hurricanes. Got to find a way to win those close games if they ever want to break through. Take a look at the offense. Look, it hurts when you lose a generational quarterback like Cam Ward, who threw for over 4,300 yards and 39 touchdowns. Hurts when you lose your 1,000-yard rusher in Damian Martinez. It hurts when you lose your top 6 pass catchers, including your program's all-time leading receiver. So a lot of losses for Miami this year offensively, but I think they're going to be just fine. Not going to be better than they were last year, but going to be pretty dang good. Carson Beck transferring in from Georgia. That's a huge get, right? A huge pickup. I know he's coming off that injury that he suffered at the end of last year with the Bulldogs, but during his time with Georgia, played very well last year before he got hurt, throwing for over 3,400 yards. Got a great arm, needs to work on some of his decision making, but I think will thrive in this offense. Mark Fletcher is back at running back, has rushed for over 1,100 yards in the last 2 years combined, rushed for over 600 yards last year with 9 touchdowns. They had C.J. Daniels in at wide receiver from LSU, and freshman Malachi Toney has a lot of upside as well, and the offensive line looks to be fairly strong. Adding James Brockermeyer in at center, that's a huge pickup. You got Francis Mauigoa over there on the right side as well. Miami's got the offense to once again compete and has an opportunity to be another top 20, top 25 offense in the country. So while they're not going to be maybe as good as they were last year, averaging nearly 44 points per game and over 500 yards per game, they're still going to be really dang good. Defensively, we got a new defensive coordinator, Corey Heatherman, coming in from Minnesota. Very underrated hire, I thought, by Mario Cristobal, looking to fix a defense that statistically you look at it wasn't bad. They gave up just 25 points per game, a little over 300 yards per game, nothing that bad. But some of those stats were inflated by some of the weaker opponents that Miami played. They did allow over 30 points in a game 6 times last year. So they played 13 games. In 6 of them, their opponents scored at least 30 points. So that's a big of a concern. This year, though, I think they get a little bit better. New coordinator's going to fix some things. They have one of the best defensive linemen in the country. Defensive end Ruben Bain at defensive end, as we mentioned. Opposite of him is Akeem Mesidor, who had 5.5 sacks last year. So you got 2 great defensive ends for Miami. And then on the interior, they add David Blay, who was a first-team Conference USA selection last year with Louisiana Tech. So I really like this defensive line for Miami. The linebacking core looks to be pretty solid. Their second leading tackler from last year, Wesley Basaint, returns. They have Mohamed Toure from Rutgers coming in, had battled some injuries, but when he's healthy is really, really good. And the secondary looks to be better this year as well. Keontae Scott coming in at nickelback from Auburn. You've got O.J. Frederique and Zechariah Poyser, who was a third-team Conference USA selection at Jacksonville State. So some big-time transfers coming in, some big-time returnees coming in. Miami has talent at all 3 levels defensively, and with a new defensive coordinator who's going to get things right, should have much improved across the board in 2025. So, all that being said, Miami's got the team, they've got the coach, they've got the staff, they've got the quarterback. Everything's looking good. The schedule this year certainly tougher than it was last year. Opening against Notre Dame, got to play Florida again. This time's at home. Florida State's going to improve. Louisville's solid. On the road at SMU, and then don't sleep on those 2 road games against Virginia Tech and Pitt. I'll tell you right now, I think the Hurricanes start 0-1. I think they're going to lose to Notre Dame, and that's the one that I'm sure will generate a lot of talk, a lot of disagreement, and it really is going to be a great game between the Fighting Irish and the Hurricanes, the Catholics versus the convicts type game, right? To me, pick your battle here, right? So many intriguing storylines to watch out for. The national runner-up now coming on the road with a fairly new team. You've got a new quarterback in C.J. Carr trying to go up against this Miami defense. This strong Notre Dame offensive line going up against this very strong Miami defensive line. Carson Beck coming back from injury going up against another strong Notre Dame defense. I mean, again, pick your battle. These are a lot of storylines that you want to watch out for. The first meeting between these historic programs since 2017, but I do lean towards the Fighting Irish here. The defense will travel, and they do travel well, and this defense will be very good. I have a lot of faith in C.J. Carr, and even if he doesn't play well, even if he struggles a little bit, Jeremiah Love is a true Heisman Trophy contender at running back, and he's bound to break off a few big runs in this game. I truly believe that. The offensive line is going to create opportunities for him. I'm not sure Carson Beck returns from his injury that quickly. I mean, he's going to start, but it's one of those things where you kind of wish they were playing Bethune-Cookman in week 1, and then Notre Dame in week 2, kind of give Carson Beck an opportunity to get some real in-game action against a weaker squad, not the national runner-up and a team that could win the national title again this year. So I lean Notre Dame. It's going to be a great game, going to be a very close game, but the Fighting Irish get the win. But then Miami wins 3 straight games. The first, Bethune-Cookman and USF should be easy wins. They beat the Bulls last year 50-15. And then Florida. I don't know why so many people are picking Florida in this game, because when I look at this, I know Florida's generating a lot of hype. They ended the year on a high. They got a lot of momentum. They should be better this year. I get it. But I look at this game, and I think Miami owns the edge in every aspect of this game. I think I'm going to take Carson Beck over DJ Lagway, and that's assuming Lagway can stay healthy. I'm going to take this Miami defense right now with an elite defensive line and a new defensive coordinator that I think is going to get a lot out of them. Miami's got home field advantage. I know they don't have the greatest home field advantage in the world, but I think the fans are going to show up big time for Notre Dame and for Florida. So all that being said, I look at this. Miami did go on the road last year, win 41-17. Again, Miami looks drastically different. Florida looks drastically different. You can't really take last year's result and make your pick this year based on what happened last year. But again, on paper, from a roster standpoint, from a talent standpoint, I think Miami's got the edge everywhere. So I don't know why people are picking Florida to win this game pretty much everywhere I look. The Hurricanes are going to win it. I feel confident in that. They're 3-1. They come out of their bye week, which I hate how those bye weeks are structured. A lot of teams getting that this year where it's a bye, then a game, and then another bye. So they'll be well rested for that back half of the season. But coming out of that bye, they go on the road to Florida State, and I think they beat the Seminoles. So how about Miami? They're getting the 2 big wins over their in-state schools, right? They beat Florida. They beat Florida State. They're going to be South Florida as well. So the Florida State game is interesting. You know, Miami won by 22 points last year, 36-14. The Seminoles are certainly going to be better than they were last year. I don't think there's any denying that. 2-10. It's kind of hard to get any worse. I think Mike Norvell fixes this team, but I'm still not sold on them as a true ACC title contender. I'm not sold on Thomas Castellanos being the guy in Tallahassee. Does he play better at quarterback? That was a major issue for Florida State struggles. They had horrendous quarterback play. Does he play better? Does the line play better? The offensive line, the defensive line were terrible for Florida State last year. Once again, both loaded with transfers. If they don't pan out again, they could struggle mightily. So again, I look at this. I think Miami's got the edge in every aspect of this game with the exception of home field advantage, and they can overcome that. So they will beat the Seminoles. They're 4-1. Coming out of the bye week, so a great time. I mean, don't like the way the buys are structured, but at least you're getting it before a big rivalry game and then before a big home game against a good Louisville squad, who Miami did beat 52-45 last year in a game that featured a combined 986 yards of offense. And I think you could be in for a similar shootout this year. I really do, because I have a lot of faith in Miller Moss and Isaac Brown and this Louisville wide receiver core. 8 starters back on offense for Louisville, 8 starters back on defense for the Cardinals as well. So you've got a very experienced team for Louisville who's not afraid to play anybody, but I would probably be picking the Cardinals to win this game if it were at home. They are a different team when they're at home under Jeff Brumman. I know they lost Miami at home last year, I get it, but with this team at home now, I think they could beat Miami. Now coming on the road, off a week of rest, Miami getting that week of rest, I just don't see it happening. So I think the Hurricanes do beat Louisville here. I think it's another high-scoring game. But I do think this defensive line does just enough to kind of cause some havoc on Miller Moss, force him into some bad decisions or some second and third and long situations to get the win. So with that, they're 5-1. They clinch bowl eligibility with an easy win over Stanford. They're 6-1. And then the interesting month of November rolls around where they play 3 road games in a span of 5 weeks, and none of them easy. All of them losable. They go on the road to SMU. Their first ever trip to Dallas, you should know. I think SMU matches up very well with Miami in this game. I really do. I mean, the Mustangs were the ACC runner-up last year, made the college football playoff, now returned tons of talent from that last year's squad, plus tons to the transfer portal. I think I would probably right now take Kevin Jennings at quarterback over Carson Beck. Both need to work on their decision making, but I would take Kevin Jennings. Certainly more mobile than Carson Beck, so that kind of gives him a leg up there. Taking Kevin Jennings there. This offensive line for SMU is going to be really good. Filled with transfers, but really good. And I think will match up well with this Miami defensive line. Can hold their own against that strong defensive line. The SMU defense, not one you want to sleep on. Yeah, they lose a lot, but still going to be pretty talented. In this pretty wild road environment, I don't think Miami has enough to come on the road and get the win. I mean, you look at the schedule. Up until this point, they've played, one road game? Am I mistaken? I think, at Florida State? That's it. So this is kind of new territory for them. Only one road game until the month of November. That's insane. They're not going to be SMU on the road. The Mustangs simply have too much. Rhett Lashley doing a phenomenal job with that program. So the Hurricanes take their second loss of the season. They're 6-2. Meaning that if they want to make the college football playoff, they're going to have to win out. And even then, as we saw last year, that's not a guarantee, getting 10-2 and getting in. So they've got to win out. They're going to win their next 2 at home. I think they're going to cruise past Syracuse in a massive revenge game. Syracuse is what ultimately kept them out of the playoff last year. Now the Orange lose a lot of the guys that helped pull off that upset. Now that it's in Miami, they're going to get the job done. NC State at home is maybe a bit of a trap game. I really like this Wolfpack squad this year, but again, having home field advantage is massive, and I'm curious to see how CJ Bailey, who showed flashes of brilliance last year as a starter, how he fares against this defense. I think Miami does get the win there. The road games at Virginia Tech and Pittsburgh, to me, are both major trap games, because we've seen this before. 8-2, still highly ranked. Miami still in the hunt for a maybe ACC title berth. They've only got one conference loss to this point. Playoff berth. And they lose to a team that's inferior to them. It was maybe Syracuse last year. It was Pittsburgh back in 2017. Could history repeat itself? I mean, we've seen this time and time again. And with Mario Cristobal now entering year 4 with 9 1-possession losses, we've seen this time and time again where some boneheaded coaching decisions or just not having his team ready to go has cost them a shot at greatness. Maybe going against the grain here. But I'm going to pick Miami to win both. Maybe I'm putting too much faith in Mario Cristobal. Maybe I'm trying to defy history a little bit, but I think Miami can win both of these games. The Virginia Tech game's tough. Blacksburg, not an easy place to play. In theory, Virginia Tech can be better than last year, at least from a statistic standpoint. They played really well against Miami last year. On the road, it came down to a overturned Hail Mary. Virginia Tech caught the ball. Maybe they didn't catch the ball. I don't know. Miami ended up winning by 4, but it came down to that controversial call at the end. They really held their own and played very well. And now a lot of those guys do come back. Kyron Drones comes back, should be fully healthy. Defense might be a little bit better, but I just think Miami has a little bit too much. I'm curious to see if Virginia Tech can stay healthy for the entire season. I'm curious to see if their offensive line, which struggled last year, can hold up against this Miami defensive line. I'm going to say no, so they get the win there. And then Pittsburgh is a major trap game as well because the Panthers' defense is salty. That front 7, really dangerous. But I do have a few questions in the secondary, and this is going to have to be a game where Carson Beck delivers with his arm. This is going to be a game where if Miami wants to stay in the hunt, they cannot afford a season finale loss like they had last year or like they had back in 2017 on the road at Pittsburgh. Cannot allow history to repeat itself. I think they learn from their mistakes. I think they get the win over Pitt. It's close, but I also don't have faith in Eli Holstein, 1, staying healthy for the entire year, and 2, exploiting this Miami defense. So it's close. Virginia Tech's close. Miami wins both. They go 10-2, 7-1 in conference play. Could be good enough to get them into the ACC championship. Depends on Clemson. Depends on SMU. Depends on Louisville, who right now we have Miami beating, so they would own that tiebreaker. So going to be very interesting to see how this year pans out. But regardless, Miami, another double-digit win season. Mario Cristobal delivering once again, but will it be good enough to make the college football playoff? You'll find out from us here at the Gridiron Expert here in just a few weeks. So guys, as always, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube. Make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos. Let us know what you think about the U. Let us know your thoughts and comments down below. Also, check out everything down in the description, our Gridiron Expert picks over on thegridironexpert.com. Some of the best picks in the entire country for one of the lowest prices in the country. Do not miss out on those, as well as our weekly newsletters also on thegridironexpert.com. Those come out, again, every single week. Do not want to miss out on that jam-packed, exclusive info that you won't get anywhere else. And once again, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on The Gridiron Expert.